How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Starve Together MODlight, in which I'll be highlighting some of the mods that I found most interesting in this past couple of weeks. Today's mods are all going to be client mods, and they're mostly going to be focusing on quality of life improvements to the game. The first one we're going to be taking a look at here is called Improved Force Attack by Harafnar. Now, some of you might be familiar with some of the features of this mod. For example, it has the same functionality as no wall attack, but in addition to preventing wall attacks on walls, it also disables force attacks for Abigail balloons, Maxwell's shadow puppets, and unfrozen and awake birds when using melee weapons. So I'm just going to briefly demonstrate this. Let's get started. So here, this is a decent example. You can see there's a bunny inside this wall, and if I force attack, I'll go after the rabbit, not the wall. I didn't attack the stone wall at all. There was a bird. Let's try force attacking. You notice they go after neither the crow here, nor the stone wall. Of course, if I wanted to still attack it, you can click it, and there you go. Same thing with the bird. This bird is, that bird was awake. Let's try it with a sleeping and a frozen bird, and you'll see the difference. Okay, so this bird here is frozen. And you notice when I force attack, Wilson goes after the frozen bird, but not the one that was over here, which was awake. The same applies here for sleeping birds. If we try force attacking now, Wilson will go after the sleeping bird when I force attack, but not the bird over here that was still awake and therefore could not be attacked. I personally find this to be an invaluable feature, as there's virtually never a situation where you'd ever want to attack birds which are awake with a melee weapon, because there is literally a 0% chance of ever catching one to kill it. They'll always fly away. Back when I used force attack as my default attack a lot of the time, I would discover that when fighting bosses and stuff, I would be frequently distracted by going after birds. So if you're somebody who also uses force attack as your default attack, this can help. But of course, the biggest reason for me to want to use this is to prevent my characters from attacking walls. You can still do it, as I said before, by clicking on it, but by default, force attack, you can stand next to it. You're never going to target that wall, which comes in mighty handy anytime you need to attack mobs around the walls. The next mod that we're going to be taking a look at here is one that I've been intending to use a little bit more frequently, especially now. It's called the Admin Scoreboard Plus by T-Shaw Killer. It is a client-side mod that adds command buttons on the scoreboard for server admins, so this will be automatically applied to any game that you are hosting. You must be an admin on the server and have the ability to execute remote console commands for the mod to work. Most default worlds that you host will support this. So here we are back in game again, and even though I don't have any other players in the world currently, we can still use the Admin Scoreboard Plus on ourselves. So here you'll see the usual View Player button, but there's also a little Next button here that you can click. And this reveals 2 more tiles worth of options. So there's a Go Back ability, there's a Drop Items ability. The Go Back one is one that I'm currently not very familiar with. I think it means go to a certain player. So in other words, if you're the admin, such as I am, and then I click this button on another player, I would go to them. And if you enable an option in the settings for this mod and right click it, that player would go to you. Obviously I can't use this with myself, so I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that, but I can demonstrate some other things here. So drop items gives you the option to drop items, and you'll notice that I can't pick them up for 8 seconds, which prevents the player that dropped the items from being able to immediately pick them back up and put them in their inventory if you need to grab something from them. Next, here we have the ability to kill the player. You can click on it, and your player is dead. Now that your player is dead, you might want to revive them. And you'll see the kill button has been exchanged with a revive button. And now we can just revive that player back. No problem at all. No console commands required. Providing, of course, that, you are the admin. We also have the option to extinguish nearby fires. Particularly useful around griefers. So let's say somebody joins your server and starts burning down pig houses. You as the admin can go over here to the scoreboard, of course, and click Extinguish Nearby Fires. And the fires nearby to the player that you clicked that button for, it'll be extinguished. See, fires near RazingHel were extinguished. Very handy. In the second panel here, we have toggle God mode. This will basically just enable God mode for the character that you toggled it for. If we want to see an example of this, we can hit this pig and, oh, I probably should not have hit it with a torch. There, you can see the other pig attacked me though, and there were no consequences. It's a toggle switch, so if you click it again, it will disable God mode. There's also the ability to toggle creative mode on. So this gives you access to all the recipes, as you can see like that. In addition to putting out fires, you might want to repair any burnt buildings that are nearby the player that's been griefing. So you can just do that, and you'll notice those two pig houses there in the background have both been repaired. But as it turns out, they also respawned their pigs, so that's not exactly glitch-free right there. Lastly, you can despawn a player back to the character selection screen, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. Now, while the mod itself is not necessarily groundbreaking, it does make it easier to administrate a game, as I've had in the past players who asked me to despawn them so they could select another character, and I usually end up having to hunt down the wiki article to figure out what the commands are that I need to use in order to do that. So being able to do that simply from the scoreboard is a welcome improvement. The last mod we're going to be taking a look at here is called the Quick Drop Client version. Now, I believe I have covered this mod in the past, but it was the server version of it. And most recently, I've become interested in it again. And that's why I went ahead and enabled it on my world to see how things worked. Now, I don't have a standard setup. So as you can see here, it says hold shift to be able to right click on an item and drop it. And I was curious how that would work with my remapped control configuration. And I'm happy to report that it works quite well. But for those who aren't familiar with this mod to begin with, it is great. We're going to be demonstrating it here. It's called this is the Quick Drop Client version. There is a server version. It's by Feedoop, who has made some other quite interesting mods. And for the description, it says here, hold shift to be able to right click on an item to drop it. So this can allow you to drop lots and lots of items in a relatively small area, or quick drop something as well without needing to click on the ground to actually place it, which is a problem that people who play with keyboard and mouse frequently run into, but people who have controllers don't. So what I'm going to do here is give myself a few hound's teeth, and as you can see, when I hold down Alt, and this is because I remapped the configuration on my controls, I'll now be able to drop it by right-clicking on that item. If I hold down a modifier key, in my case Control, I'll now be able to drop one at a time. So 39, 38, 37, 36. If I do not hold down that modifier, I'll simply drop the whole stack. And as you can see, when each of these stacks are dropped, they're dropped in the exact same location. This will allow you to drop a lot of stacks worth of an item, any item, basically in one single area on the map, so things don't look quite as messy and spread out. So instead of needing to do something like this, oh, drop, 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 to get things out of your inventory, you have a one-click drop, a one-click drop, a one-click drop. Beautiful. And I'll drop it in relatively the same proximity. Another common use for this would be with something like staves. Staves can easily take up a lot of room, but with this you can drop them all in the exact same tile. And there you go. There you have an entire stack worth of staves, relatively small area, and it only took you a couple seconds to actually put them all down, which is a real boon. So I think that's a decent demonstration of what you can do using the Quick Drop Client version. I plan on keeping this as one of my default mods going forward here, as it's just so useful. But that does it for this episode. All of the links to the relevant mods will be in the description below this video, so be sure to check them out. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.